elderly women, younger children taking up arms, prepared to sacrifice everything. I don't know if you heard the audio of those 13 defenders of this Snake Island where the Russian ship says, surrender, this is Russian ship, surrender, and they respond, in French about what the Russian ship should go do. No matter how you feel, everything, and here's what it reminds you of. It reminds you how valuable freedom and liberty is. These are people that are basically saying, we refuse to be Putin's slaves, we refuse to live under tyranny, and we're prepared to give our life and die for it. And what it reminds us of, it should remind us of two things: how precious freedom and liberty is, how quickly it can be lost. And the second thing it should remind us is that the reason why we've had freedom and we've had liberty is because people at one point were willing to do that for our country here. They were willing to die, and they were willing to sacrifice for it. Freedom and liberty are being threatened again, but no one here is being asked to die. No one here is being asked to take up arms to defend it. We're being asked to win elections, to speak out, to be courageous, to raise our voices, to call it out for what it is, and it's happening. And I'll close with this: it's happening. It's happening because I'm telling you right now that all across the state and all across America, there are people that may not agree with us on what the tax rate should be. There are people that may not agree with us on how much regulation there should be in government. There are people that may not agree with us on a variety of issues. There are people that perhaps have never voted the same way any of you have in a presidential race, and they're really angry. And they're getting rid of school board members because you're coming for their kids. And they're getting rid of local government officials because they're coming for their business. And they'll get rid of federal leaders that are coming for their freedom. These are people that are not ideological. Here's what they believe in: common sense, wisdom, and values. The notion that parents should have the predominant role to play in their children's lives, that people should be able to say and speak freely in this country, that this is the greatest nation on earth, not an inherently evil one. They believe in these things too. And that's why I believe that for all the negative we've heard, the pendulum is swinging. The pendulum is swinging. And I believe we are on the precipice, on the verge of a reinvigoration of the American spirit that will not just strengthen America. It will leave us freer and more prosperous than we have ever been. So let's go out and make sure that happens. God bless all of you. And let's keep CPAC in Florida. Thank you. God bless you.
I wear my mask everywhere, even in the bathroom. Okay, so this is seriously going to be the CPAC talk show format. We actually get to do this every week on CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. Matt and I have a show 3 times a week. If you haven't watched it, it's really a lot of fun. You just go to conservative.org. It's like you can watch it anytime, and we have wonderful guests, and so we thought this would be a great opportunity to bring on some really remarkable leaders in our nation who are on the front lines fighting on all different levels, from the political level to the community level in our school boards. And so I'm just so thrilled that I have this wonderful opportunity to not be Whoopi or Joy, but to be a strong conservative woman who's going to be able to talk to these fabulous guests that we have. So let's not waste any time. Let's get going. All right, my first guest, Congressman Jim Banks, wonderful congressman from the state of Indiana. He's also the chairman of the Republican Study Committee. Jim, come on down. All right, you're over here over to my left. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's jump right into it. We were talking about being the fighters on the front line, and you and I were having a great conversation backstage about how the year of 2021 was the year to try to cancel Jim Banks on every sort of level. First of all, let me throw out a name to you, and then you give me a reaction. Nancy Pelosi. So what happened that you actually got kicked off of a committee? Walk us through the process.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of January 2021. We had the election, then we had January 6th. By the way, I will never, ever apologize for objecting to an unconstitutional election in November of 2020. So January 6th happened, obviously a really terrible day, a riot at the United States Capitol, something that saddens most of us, all of us. And then we had January 20th, when we replaced the best president of my lifetime with the worst president that we've ever had in American history. So then we had this debate in the Nancy Pelosi-led Congress about organizing a bipartisan commission to study January 6th, to do everything that we can to make sure that something like January 6th never happens again.
Right.
That's a valid goal. Unfortunately, the sham January 6th commission that Pelosi and Cheney lead don't have any interest at all in doing that. But Kevin McCarthy, who was on the stage with me last year, he asked me to be the Republican leader of the Jan 6 sham committee so that we could fight back and do the real work of actually studying what happened that day, digging into important questions like why did Nancy Pelosi, who was in charge of Capitol security, block the National Guard from coming to protect the Capitol? That's an important question, right?
Yep.
So it didn't take more than 2 or 3 days when one of my true heroes in the United States Congress, Jim Jordan, who was also selected by Kevin McCarthy to be a part of the committee with me, when we both got canceled and kicked off of the committee by Nancy Pelosi. It's never happened in congressional history before.
How did she reach out to you and let you know about, like, that you were not going to be part of this?
I was at a Republican Study Committee meeting. We meet every Wednesday with our conservative colleagues in the House. I found out a bit about it on Twitter.
Well, not surprising. As well as they actually, when they subpoena these young kids, many times they find out on Twitter because that's where they post the letters, or they go straight to their jobs to give them these subpoenaed letters.
Make no doubt about it, this is a political witch hunt. This is a dangerous path by the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi, their best friend, the Democrats' best friend, Nancy Pelosi, and Adam Kinzinger. This is their power play to erase and to attack anyone who disagrees with their agenda.
Jim, were you surprised that Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger both just supported this effort by Nancy Pelosi to really you know what their whole goal is. They want to throw Donald Trump in jail. I mean, that's their whole goal. They want to find a crime if they can. I mean, were you surprised that 2 of your colleagues moved in that direction?
Unfortunately, no. In both cases, Liz Cheney would rather have Nancy Pelosi in the Speaker's chair than any Republican at this point. And that's why, by the way, I commend the RNC for censoring Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney because they deserve it.
But, you know, we've seen some Republican politicians like Mitch McConnell. He doesn't agree with the censorship. I mean, where do we stand there when you have certain Republicans trying to protect these so-called, I don't even call them Republicans anymore, but I mean, what do you think about those Republicans that are trying to say, no, no, we can't have this happen?
Look, when you look at what this sham January 6th committee has done, how they've abused the power of the Congress to go after their political enemies, I don't know how you can arrive at any other place than agreeing with the RNC and others who believe that there is no place in the Republican Party for those who abuse their power, like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger.
So let me ask you, you know, we're going to get into these midterm elections obviously this year in 2022. What do you think the committee, what is going to be the end result of this committee? What are we're expecting from the January 6th committee?
Well, it's obviously a political circus that's designed to take all the attention away from what Americans really care about, which is inflation, crime. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45, working age Americans today because of the border crisis. The border crisis is another issue that the Americans care deeply about. The foreign policy missteps of this president, who Bob Gates was right when he said Joe Biden has been wrong on every major foreign policy issue for 40 years, and he wrote that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what the American people care about, but the Democrats know that this is going so badly for Joe Biden and for the Democrats that they will do anything to change the subject.
So you were also canceled on Twitter. Why?
I called a biological man a man, and I got kicked off of Twitter. I imagine it's happened to some of you as well. But these are the tactics designed by the left, right? The January 6th committee to go after political opponents, anyone who was associated with Donald Trump before, during, or after January 6th, and their friends in the big tech who want to silence all of us for what we believe as well.
Obviously, we're seeing the Russian aggression into Ukraine. Now we're seeing Ukraine mobilize their troops to try to see if they can fight against a massive army. I mean, when you're watching this from obviously being a congressional member, how do you think the Biden administration should be handling this? And also talk a little bit about Afghanistan. But first, let's talk Russia.
Well, we can't get to Russia before talking for a moment about Afghanistan. I served in uniform in Afghanistan. It was the proudest moments of my life was putting on the uniform and serving my country. And to this moment, as I sit here with all of you today, it makes me sick to my stomach to see the way that Joe Biden embarrassed America on the world stage. But Putin, Xi, Iran, all of our adversaries were watching that moment, and that's why they're seizing on this moment, a moment of unparalleled and historic American weakness to act out and do what they've always wanted to do. In Putin's case, to invade Ukraine. He knew he could get away with it because he had Joe Biden figured out the day that Joe Biden came into office. He knew that this was the moment that he had been waiting for. After 4 years of a very strong president, this would have never happened on Donald Trump's watch. But Putin gamed it out. He knew that when Joe Biden became the president, he could get away with it. And I fear that Xi and the Chinese Communist Party, they know that they can get away with invading Taiwan as well because of this very historic, weak moment for America. So that's what makes me sick to my stomach about Ukraine as well. As a member of Congress, I went to Ukraine a couple of years ago. I went out in the east on an army base where I watched firsthand American troops training the Ukrainian troops to fight back against Russian aggression. That was on Donald Trump's watch as commander-in-chief. And what we are seeing before our eyes, if you go on Twitter right now or online, any of the platforms, Truth Social, any of the platforms online, you'll see videos of the Ukrainian soldiers fighting back, and thank God. They're doing that because we helped them, we trained them, we gave them our American fighting spirit along the way, and we're seeing them use it.
Right, and we have troops on the ground in Poland. I mean, what's your message to them?
This is a historic moment for America to lead. And right now, while we have a president and a commander-in-chief who is not a leader, we have young men and women who are brave, who raised their right hand like I did, to protect and defend American freedom and values. And at this point, though, my message to the world is this was completely avoidable. But better days lie ahead. 2022, November is here. It's right around the corner. At that moment, we're going to take back our country from the radical left who is trying to tear it down.
Thank you, Congressman Jim Banks. We're so honored to have you here with us.
Thank you.
That was great.
See you. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, the CPAC show continues. Now we have two great, fantastic women, both with incredible experience. Kimberly Fletcher, I don't know if you saw this big truck outside, the Moms for America truck. They are literally going out to Oklahoma and then ending up in Washington, D.C. She'll tell us more. Kimberly Fletcher, Moms for America. Tudor Dixon, our Republican gubernatorial candidate from the great state of Michigan. They join me on stage. Hi. Hello, my darling friend. Okay, you're right here. Okay, so I'm trying to get Matt to get CPAC pillows because apparently everybody loves them. So we're going to try to get these in the merch store at some time. Ladies, hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the Right View. Whoopi couldn't make it, but that's okay. She's in a little trouble these days, along with Chris Cuomo and Jeff Zucker. Oh, the list goes on and on.
There's no trouble on that side.
There's no trouble on that side. Okay, well, let's get right to it. Tudor, you have an amazing story. You're such an inspiration to so many women who are always wondering, should I get involved in politics? Should I not? You took this big step to go into what I would say is a purple state, Michigan, to run. What are you seeing on the ground right now? What are the issues that are mattering to the people of Michigan, which I know obviously impacts the whole country?
Yeah, right, the issues in Michigan are very similar to the country, but we are a very strong small business state, and small business is being crushed in the state of Michigan. So we have to bring that back, but that goes to our children, because education, we're failing our children in education. If we cannot graduate children that can read, you can't go into a skilled trade, you can't go to college. We need to be there for our kids. And guess what? During the pandemic, we saw some things in our schools we didn't like, didn't we?
And you're a mother of 4.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I got one upper. I got the 5.
This is my inspiration, though, but I'm not going for 5.
So, and you're a mother of 4, so you get it. You understand where this is impacting.
Yes, my kids are in school, so I'm walking alongside all of you parents out there that are seeing these things. And in Michigan, we've had parents on the other side saying, this isn't happening. But we just in December, there was the 21-day equity challenge. So this is a new thing. When we were in high school, they were telling us, words can't hurt you. Now we have schools saying, this is a list of the words and phrases that should hurt you. This is bananas that we're seeing this. And one of those phrases is to call the United States of America the land of opportunity. That's a microaggression now.
Oh, Lord. That's
Yes.
in Michigan?
Yes.
Oh, my Lord. Well, we'll get into the present governor, which I find her to be
The worst
scary.
governor in America?
Exactly. Kimberly, let me go to you. Okay, so yesterday you had this press conference with this truck. It's a woman truck driver. She is so cool. I couldn't drive that thing because I'd crash it in 2 seconds. Can you explain what you all are doing, being part of the Freedom Truck Convoy that's going through the United States to end up at the swamp?
So I think that the memes that are going out everywhere, they absolutely are saying it for us. Moms and truckers are going to save the country.
Yes.
So
I'm going to say dads, too, okay? We need the dads. We need the...
I want to make it clear that Moms for America is a national movement of women who love men. So we're standing with our men to fight this big fight. So the truck, we have embedded with the People's Convoy that started in Barstow on Wednesday. We have 2 moms that are in that convoy heading east. And we have 3 moms, including Mary, our truck driver mom, okay? She's a mom truck driver, who is in this big purple rig with the Constitution, the Statue of Liberty all over it. And they are heading west. They will meet in Oklahoma City and head to Washington, D.C. to send a powerful statement. You don't rule over us, you serve us. We are the government, and the moms are rising up to defend our freedoms.
So, Tudor, let's go back to the Governor Whitmer of Michigan. I mean, she has been one of the biggest hypocrites I've ever seen in politics, where it's like, what applies to me does not apply to you. It's that sort of mentality. Why does she have to be defeated?
She has to be defeated because she wants to defeat America. That's what she wants to do. She wants to crush Americans. She wants to crush the people of Michigan. You talk about the trucker convoy. This is a governor who just 2 weeks ago said whatever it takes. She was willing to send our heavy equipment into Canada to crush the truckers over there. We know she is willing to do whatever it takes because she did whatever it took in Michigan. I don't know if you're aware of what happened to us, but you couldn't garden. You couldn't have a boat with a motor. You could golf with, you could walk, but you couldn't take a golf cart. We had ridiculous draconian rules that were controlling us, but it continues beyond the pandemic. And when she says whatever it takes for government to be in control, she absolutely is not into serving the people. This is not a governor who understands service. She understands tyranny and power.
And she reminds me of a prime minister Justin Trudeau up in Canada. She might be related to him. Here it goes. All right, let's say it together. Trudeau. There you go. Fauci. There you go. Perfect. All right, Kimberly. So we had a press conference, which was one of the most memorable experiences I've had with these amazing group of moms in front of the National School Board Association. What was the message, and explain why that event was so important?
So we've had moms who've been contacting us all over the country, talking about their children having the masks taped to their mouths by teachers. The mask mouth is now a real thing where children are having staph infection and tooth decay. We've had moms who are talking about these forced vaccines. I mean, all of these things that are flooding to us, from the medical mandates to the curriculum in our children's schools. And we realize that this is all coming from not just the teachers' unions, but associations, lobbying associations that we're paying for with our tax dollars. And the National School Board Association is one of them. Every state has one. They have a superintendent's association, and they're all funded by our tax dollars that go to the district. So we decided when we were declared domestic terrorists that we needed to take a stand, and so we went and stood outside the National School Board Association and sent a powerful message to both the NSBA and the DOJ and made it clear that these are our children. And you are there to support us, not to restrict us, not to regulate us, not to replace us. And we had moms from all over the country who came and stood strong with those messages.
Tudor, let's talk about what's your agenda, your first 100-day agenda as governor of Michigan.
Well, I want to say what she just talked about is very important to the state of Michigan as well, because we had children that were out of school in some cases for over a year.
Wow.
So it's very important for parents to be involved. But the Michigan Democratic Party just posted they don't want parents involved, just like everybody else on the left side. So it's insane. But our agenda, our first 100 days, we're looking at education first. We want 25 hours of tutoring for each student in Michigan because of that, because our students lost out on so much. We were already behind the rest of the country and lost over a year of learning. This governor has vetoed every opportunity to help our students. We have got to get our students back on track. But how about we have dollars follow the child? Let's make sure. Like Kimberly's saying, let's get parents back involved in the child's education. And you know what the left will tell me so often? You're wrong, parents won't get involved. I think we've proven that parents will get involved.
We absolutely have. Moms and dads are on the front lines fighting for our kids right now.
We also are calling for the Parents' Right to Know Act. We want parents to know what's happening in their classrooms.
Yep.
It should be 3 clicks to your child's classroom. You should be able to see what's in the classroom library. You should be able to see what's in the school library, what CRT, DEI, all of these things, because you can say I'm going to get rid of CRT, but guess what? These folks will rename it. We have to be aware of what's happening. Transparency in our schools is key. We deserve to know what you are teaching. and then we can have a conversation about it. And somebody said something to me that I think is very valuable. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and our schools need to be disinfected.
Great point. Great point. Kimberly, as you're talking to moms across the country, what is their sense as we've entered into 2022? I mean, some of these moms have never been political before, right? They've never been engaged, and all of a sudden they're waking up.
So I'd have to say that Virginia is a perfect example of what's about to come.
Right.
And everybody talks about, you know, what happened with Youngkin and Winsome Sears, which is amazing and awesome. That was moms, okay, that was moms. But what we have learned in working with moms over the last 16 years is that the vast majority of conservative women of faith are not voting. Most of them aren't even registered to vote. And what you saw in Virginia, that's what happens when they do. And now moms are empowered. And not only did we win Virginia, but in 17 states, we won school board races. We had a mom in Pennsylvania who not only said, because of you guys, I'm gonna run for school board, she went and enlisted 7 other people to run for school board and city council, and they all won.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. We're running out of time, but I wanna get your final thoughts, Tudor, on what is your message for our CPAC crowd here as we're going into the midterm elections, as we're going into these important gubernatorial races across the country?
Take a look at the change in our country in just 1 year. It's so important that everybody get involved. I have heard for years, you know what, I'm involved in my church, I don't want to be involved politically, I feel like there's a conflict. There is not a conflict, because we have to protect our religious liberties, and to do that, we have to be involved in the political world.
Your vote is your voice for your values. That is our big message, yep. So if you are not voting, then your values are not represented, your voice is not heard, and I think now moms are really empowered to realize there's something I can do. I can vote, I can voice my values, and I can run for school board and support those who are running. Everything's about local now. The most powerful elected office in the country is not president and Congress. It's sheriff and school board, and that's where we're focusing our efforts.
Wow. Thank you, ladies, so much. This is a wonderful discussion. Tudor Dixon, Kimberly Fletcher, aren't they fabulous? Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I give you a hug. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Okay, who's up next? All right, we've got a really fascinating group of ladies, and gentlemen. Layla Setner, she runs the Setner Academy down in South Florida. She's been a fearless leader in this area of making sure that our kids don't have to wear masks. Hannah Smith, South Lake, Texas School Board member, and Brandon Leslie, Florida's conservative voice. Come on down. People, come on, you got energy. It's second day of CPAC. Hello, how are you? Hi, great to see you. Hannah, come on in. Brandon, how are you, sir? Great to meet you too. All right, let's get started. We've been having a lot of great conversations here with some of our wonderful, what I call freedom fighters in this country. I've gotten to know you so well, Layla, and I just want to get a sense, you run this incredible school down in South Florida, and all of a sudden, her school becomes like the ground zero of all the left-wing media trying to destroy your school. Tell your story.
So I own a school in Miami, Florida, and I took a stance from when school reopened in September 2020, where I refused to mandate masks. I refused to socially distance our kids. Thank you.
And let's remember, it was 2020, okay? This was just when it was getting started.
I refused to plexiglass. I refused to force my kids to use the hand sanitizer 50 times a day. And I just did the common sense thing. I increased my cleaning staff. I put UV lights in the HVAC system to help clear the air. And I let the kids be happy, normal kids, because that's how they're going to have a strong immune system. Thank you. Fast forward in April, when all the teachers started getting the COVID shot, I took a stand and I said, I really don't want teachers to get the shot, because we don't know of the possibility of the vaccinated impacting the unvaccinated kids. I have several doctors who are in this community, and they've been seeing cases of weird things that are happening. And I said, look, let's err on the side of caution. This is still an experiment. It's in the testing phase. We don't know what we don't know. We have a very healthy young staff, and the CDC data was already out. Overall, there was a 99.74% recovery rate from COVID, so I knew this wasn't a life or death situation. And when I made that stance, basically the media went ballistics, and they went all over me, even though there are schools, even to this day, in fact, 2 weeks ago in New York, they fired 800 teachers, and I never fired one soul.
No.
They fired...
Yeah, that's true.
They fired 800 teachers because they didn't get the shot. And even though I have not fired anyone, they came after me. Why? Because I did not fit the propaganda that they were selling.
Right, and you had your own opinion on how you wanted to run your facility and not let the government dictate those terms.
Exactly.
Hannah, let's go into your story as a school board member. Tell us what happened to you. Tell us what the situation was.
Sure. Well, I'm from Southlake, Texas. Yay, all Texans out there. And in 2020, the left came for our kids. They wanted to pass a 34-page plan that would have radically transformed our entire school district, from microaggression tracking to equity audits of our curriculum to teacher performance metrics that would measure wokeness for our teachers. And that plan was defeated because parents like you stood up and said, no, this is not happening to our kids in our schools on our watch. So we defeated that plan. We had school board trustee candidates rise up and say, we're going to run for school board. We're going to take back our school board. And my friend Cam Bryan and I won our school board election last May with 70% of the vote. We're still taking back our school board. We have 2 more candidates running this spring, and we're really excited to move forward with a school district that represents the values of our community. But it's really important to remember that this can happen anywhere. We're in one of the reddest counties in Texas, and they came for our kids and our schools. If this can happen in Loudoun County and Southlake, Texas, it can happen anywhere. So if you look just a couple weeks ago in San Francisco, there was a recall vote for 3 school board members. They won by 70% of the vote in San Francisco, California, okay? So you can do this. If you care about your kids, you care about their future, the spirit of the American Revolution is alive and well. We don't want the government telling us what to do with our kids, our families, or our schools. Take back your school boards just like we did in Southlake, Texas.
Right, and you're on the media side. And, you know, tell us of how you have seen the media evolve on how the fight is so different now when it comes to being able to find a voice in talking about these issues that we care about and being able to talk about the country we care about.
Yeah, and Florida is the greatest state in the nation, I have to say. I'm so happy that we're
I don't
able
know,
to
you're
have CPAC here.
next to a Texan. I'm not sure
I'm
how
sorry.
this is
She
gonna go.
said to Texas, I have to make sure
Yeah.
Florida is the greatest state in the union, and we have the greatest governor. But I work.
Wait, you're outnumbered, Hannah, because I grew up in Florida.
I don't know, how many Texans are out there?
There you go, there's some Texans.
I actually used to work in mainstream media. I was a TV news reporter, and I saw it from behind the scenes how we were, my stories all the time. We had a good Republican county board that I would cover for my politics, and then the editors would always change the scripts, try to exaggerate things. There always had to be a controversy, even though there wasn't one, just because they were a Republican. So I started Florida's Conservative Voice, and you're right, we now have many more alternatives here in Florida. We're a red state. Our story is not being told in Florida, and that's why I said I'm done. I quit 1 year into my 3-year contract to start Florida's Conservative Voice so that our voice can actually be, our story and voice can be shared to the masses.
What do you feel right now when you're looking at the political landscape in terms of what do you feel that the conservatives can take, basically not only control, but become even a bigger movement?
Yeah, we have to create our own institutions.
Yes.
We're seeing it. There's a great nonprofit called Freedom Travel Alliance that's saying, hey, we'll fly you and you don't have to wear a mask. There's great places like Seat to Table in Naples. Alfie Oakes said, no, I'm not mandating masks in Collier County in my store. So we got to keep creating these institutions, and we will be able to overcome them because we are the majority. They always said we're the silent majority, but all of a sudden we're turning into the loud majority.
I love that,
Yep.
the loud majority.
That's right.
Layla, I remember when we were going through this process of when I tell you vicious attacks on trying to destroy her school that was coming from the media, I've been in this business for a long time. It was brutal. Tell us, I mean, it really hit you personally on how they were trying to destroy you and your school. Tell the story.
I mean, they called me all sorts of names: insane and dangerous, moron and an idiot, somebody that I'm gonna basically destroy, kill all the kids because I'm letting them breathe fresh oxygen. And I really had to just pray a lot during that time and just find strength and realize that they're doing this because I'm on the right path.
Right.
And they don't like the fact that I am letting our kids be kids because they're on a mission to destroy our youth. And so it ended up giving me more power to fight harder and to say, no, I won't be bullied by the left. No, I won't let them stop me. In fact, I had a few parents that were on the left that came up to me and asked me to step down. I said, I won't step down from my own school. Maybe you should find another school. And, and what happened is I lost maybe about 100 kids from this whole thing, and I gained over 100 way more aligned families, families that moved from all over the country. At this moment, I have a waiting list on 5 grades, and thank you. I'm actively recruiting teachers, and I'm really, really looking for teachers that are passionate about teaching kids. They understand what our country is about. They're against critical race theory, which I'm completely against. They're against all this crazy transgender stuff that they're teaching in school. So I'm recruiting from all over the country, and new parents are coming in from all over the country.
And you've also had an interesting phenomenon happen. You've had other schools reach out to you, right? Other individuals saying, how do I start my own academy, right? Tell us that.
So I've had parents from across the country reach out to me and say, you've inspired me to take control of my kids' lives. And so they've been starting these pods and these homeschools all over the country, which I admire and I encourage everywhere. The only way to save our future is through kids.
That's right.
So I've been helping guide them as much as I can. Hopefully soon I'll have a blueprint that I can hand them and say, here, take this, do it. Because it's very admirable. It's not an easy job to run a school, but at the end of the day, all the lives and all the smiles that I see on a daily basis, it's worth it. It's worth it.
So Hannah, in terms of the school boards, we've seen these videos come out of parents really being dragged out of school board meetings, parents being called domestic terrorists. I mean, obviously I know Brendan thinks that Florida is the best, which I agree, but, but in Texas, you know, like when you see these images, what are your initial reactions?
I think it really speaks to the moment we're in right now, that government could label parents who are concerned about their own children's education domestic terrorists.
Right.
I mean, where are we as a country when that is the state of affairs? But it's really important for all of you who care about your school districts to show up at those meetings, to show up and give public comments, to do open records requests, to demand transparency, to demand accountability.
But Hannah, they go after these parents. Because we've seen that happen, where you've seen investigations start on these parents.
Right. But, you know, there's strength in numbers. And if you show up with 300 parents and you are behind each other, you can really make a big difference. That's what happened in Southlake. You know, we refused to back down, and we showed up meeting after meeting after meeting, and we refused to take no for an answer. And that's what ultimately defeated this incredibly radical plan that they wanted to pass in our school district. So don't be intimidated. When you run for school board, they're going to call you all sorts of nasty names. They're going to go after the people who support you. They're going to go after the people who finance you. They're going to try and get them fired from their jobs. That happened in Southlake. Supporters were attacked by the woke mob, and they tried to cancel them and get them fired from their jobs. Ultimately, we fought back, and those people were saved, and they didn't lose their jobs. So there's strength in numbers, there's strength in truth, and there's strength in being on the right side. So don't be intimidated, and just know that you're on the right side, and that you'll be protected if you have strength in numbers.
So Brendan, I know you live in this great red state that we're all in right now, but what advice do you give to those people that are in purple states, or even in blue states, just to try to survive in that? We're going to call you that you're in the safe space, okay? Yeah. Like, if you move to another state, then we can talk. But like, what advice do you give those the people that are out there fighting the good fight, but are just frustrated because they don't see change?
You know, going off of what Layla said earlier, it's important to have your faith in God. I'm a born-again Christian. After January 6th, Everyone labeled me insurrectionist. I was there in D.C. I took 200 of our fans, me and Alfie Oakes, we took 200 of our fans up to D.C. to support President Trump. And then, of course, things went the wrong way, but they wanted to label you as the worst of the worst. So what I did was I found my faith in God, I found my inner peace, and because of that, I'm able to stand up, and you know what, I've been more powerful than ever. In Lee County, like what Hannah's saying, if it's happening in the red counties, it can happen anywhere. Lee County in Southwest Florida is one of the reddest counties in Florida. I found out in the middle of COVID, the school board passed transgender bathroom policies, letting students use whatever bathroom they want. And they're talking about sexual identity and manipulating these children. We exposed it at Florida's Conservative Voice. 2 days later, 500 parents showed up to that meeting. About a month later, and that policy was completely rescinded. So there is power in truth, and there's power in numbers, and there's power in faith. Those are the three things you got to remember, and just keep moving forward, and be consistent.
And Brendan, you really have like a grasp on the organic movement, right? The grassroots. What are you hearing on the ground as well in terms of what they're seeing happening, not only nationally, but internationally at this point?
It's just, we're seeing the momentum shift big time, and I can tell you here in Florida, I know a lot of people are worried about the influx of new residents that we've had because of the COVID policies from these tyrannical blue states. They're coming here and they're voting in the right way. I was just with David Rubin of the Rubin Report, and he was telling me the same thing. He's like, listen, everyone I'm speaking to, they were former liberals. They're coming here to Florida because they know Governor DeSantis is great. They want to live a free life. And you know what? We hit rock bottom with President Brandon, but there's the only way. The only way that we can go is up from here. So momentum is changing. Just keep the faith.
Layla, you understand clearly, and I just want to point this out. Like the Miami Herald, their articles, I think, were probably one of the worst. The worst. And again, you stayed strong. How has it been ever since? Now they've kind of backed off, they're leaving you alone. But do you feel that getting involved in this political process is important and telling your story?
Yeah, you know, before all of this, before COVID, I was not into politics at all. And from seeing everything that's been happening, I realized how important politics is. Even from just the school boards, the local mayor. I mean, the decisions that they can make can really ruin your lives.
And business.
Yeah. And business, 100%. Shutting down businesses. DeSantis, he's fought so hard for schools to remain open, which they had. So thank God for DeSantis.
Yep.
Yes.
But more than ever, I have become an activist in all of these areas because I'm realizing that the only way we're going to save our future is through politics, through education, through our children, and really going out there. Instead of complaining about the things that aren't going right, do something about it.
Right. That's right. Hannah, let's get your final thoughts because we're going to be running out of time here. I know you've talked about getting involved and all of that when it comes to our children. Do you think we're going to make a comeback?
Absolutely. I see it across the country. From coast to coast, parents are rising up and they're saying enough is enough. You know, we're in charge of our kids. We're in charge of our kids' education. And if you see it in San Francisco, California, that means it can happen anywhere. So I think this movement is a tidal wave and it is just going to continue to move across the country. But we count on all of you to get involved. You have to go back home, be inspired, start looking for those great candidates to run for school board. The most important elected official in your town is the school board trustee, because they make the decisions about what your kids are learning and the future of Americans. So if you care about the future of America, you care about the future of our democracy, you care about your children, run for school board because it really makes a difference.
And Brendan, final thoughts. You've got the last word.
Yeah, like I said, the reason why I started my own media outlet was really to give the voice to those local elections, because you know what, the Democrats are spending a lot of money in Florida, and it's not on the governor's race, it's on those school board races. So we're going to continue to expose them. I swear, I'm going to use every ounce of energy I got to continue to fight these communists.
Well, let's give a round of applause to our freedom fighters on the front line. Layla, Hannah, and Brendan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad you made it.
You're amazing.
Wonderful to meet you. I don't know. All right, we're not done yet. Okay, who's still got the energy out there? You're not falling asleep on me, right? Okay. Next, we have two very powerful women, truly inspirational. Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody and the former Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, Rebecca Clayfish, who is now the gubernatorial candidate on the Republican side for the great state of Wisconsin. Warm, warm welcome to these fabulous ladies. Hello, how are you? Hi. Thank you, it's great to be home. Okay, just for the blondes out there, the brunettes have more fun, okay? For the record. Okay, well, this is wonderful. Well, y'all made it. Well, you're here, so not too far away.
Yeah, welcome to the free state of Florida. Glad to have you.
It's good to be in a free state, Ashley.
Are you gonna, okay, so let's just get right
free
to
Wisconsin.
We're trying to help you with that. We're working hard.
Thank you for setting a good example.
Well, let's get started. You've been in public service for a very long time. You were the lieutenant governor under Scott Walker, who we love. Tell me, what are you seeing? What are the changes you're seeing in Wisconsin? Obviously, you have a Democrat governor. What has he done that hasn't been working, and is it reflective of what we're seeing in the rest of the country?
Everything, Mercedes, everything that our Democrat governor has been doing is not working. And thankfully, we have a Republican legislature right now, but they're at loggerheads every single day. So that means we're not making progress.
Right.
And what Tony Evers, our terrible governor, has done is be the architect of today's status quo, which means violent crime is on the rise, 9% year over year. Did you know Milwaukee has more cars stolen today than in Chicago? It's not just violent crime that's on the rise, it's also education. How many of you are so frustrated that we've had 2 years of this virtual experiment, and now we still have kids in Wisconsin who are
it's so
masked?
obvious, too. Governor Evers works against the legislature when they try to do things to help.
Exactly.
For example, when they were trying to defund the police, their legislature passed a bill, much like we did here in Florida with the leadership of Governor DeSantis, that said, hey, look, if you try to cut the funding for police, we're not going to allow that. We're going to shut that down. They tried to pass a similar bill there. The governor vetoed it.
Well, we need to make sure that we're backing the badge, and Governor Evers is really out of touch. If you're familiar with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and what happened when Kenosha burned, never needed to happen. If you're familiar with what happened with the Waukesha Parade massacre, never needed to happen.
And wasn't it that he wouldn't allow the National Guard to come in? That was one of the pieces of this.
Donald Trump was the one who assured that the National Guard came in. There were enough federal agents to come in time, but 2 men had to lose their lives before any of that ever happened. No. So bad on crime, bad on education, and frankly, bad on the economy. He was one of the last governors in America to pay people more to sit on the sidelines. We need people back to work.
That's right. That's right. Now, Ashley, you're in a different situation here in Florida. One of the things I've noticed is you've been talking a lot about Secretary of the Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, and the fact that just he should resign. I agree.
So you heard me, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to get your comments on how their inability to control this border is impacting states like Florida.
But the border is no different than the larger cities where you're seeing the spike in crime, the spike in violent crime, the spikes in murder. It's all about enforcing the public safety laws on the books. Mm-hmm. We have specific immigration laws, public safety immigration laws, that this administration has just abandoned. And historically, even Democrats have followed these public safety laws. One of the first things Biden did when he got into office is stop deporting those here illegally that were committing crimes, very serious felonies. Obama even did that. This should not even be up for debate. But Mayorkas is not implementing these laws. When he goes to the Border Patrol agents that are supposed to have taken an oath to protect this country, defend the border, they're like, let us do our jobs. Mayorkas goes down there and wears a Border Patrol jacket, and they're like, why are you even wearing that? Why are you even wearing that? You're not letting us follow the laws. He's like, I'm gonna help them. I'm gonna increase their morale. I'm gonna get more processors so we can process more people coming here illegally into our country. Well, let me tell you how that's working. Biden secretly flew someone into our state who was posing as a child, a 24-year-old man who murdered a father of 4. We are feeling the effects from this lack of enforcement of the rule of law. That's what's also happening in these larger cities. Mm-hmm. You have these radical prosecutors. Some of them have never even prosecuted a case. They're not prosecutors, although they now have the title of prosecutor, and they immediately get in office, start letting people out of jail. They don't prosecute the crimes that are brought to them by law enforcement,
and it's a breakdown in enforcing the rule of law.
Ashley's
it's all
totally
the same
right.
thing, and it creates chaos, anarchy, riots in the street, organized retail theft. You're seeing the smash and grabs, but let me talk about Florida. We've been working for years on how to be proactive and strategic and keep organized retail theft from taking hold in our state. We support our sheriffs. In fact, instead of this nonsense about defunding the police, we're increasing their salaries. We're offering bonuses around the nation. I just swore in 12 officers personally here in Florida that fled New York and came to Florida.
Ashley's so right, Mercedes. I'll put 1,000 more cops on the streets, and we've got to be concerned as moms in this country for the safety and security of our family.
And I've been on the campaign trail with Donald Trump, and I remember meeting these sheriffs. You all were with us on these bus tours that we did, and we really, you would meet these police officers, the sheriffs, and they would be crying because they'd be like, I can't do my job. I'm demoralized. I can't, you know, my kid who always loved cops, now he doesn't want to become a cop because, and then you have cities like New York City where it's a disaster of a place of violence and a place where they can't control it because they have these very bad laws. They're not enforcing the laws, Ashley.
They have DAs that don't enforce their law. I mean, look at where we had the parade, that horrible incident.
John Chisholm in Milwaukee County.
Long track record in 3 different states. Violent crimes, sexual offenses. That guy got out on bond like that. And was able to
and you all are dealing,
sentencing
and in Wisconsin,
too.
you're dealing with that as well. I mean, the parade during the Christmas time was so
That's
tragic.
exactly what Ashley was talking about. You know, I was there at the funeral of an 8-year-old boy and hugged a mom who stood next to a casket made for a child. No one should have to go through that. This man was let out on low bond, and then just days later, another incident. And then days after that, we had 3 cops shot in 2 weeks in Milwaukee. This is what you get when you have these liberal district attorneys and judges who simply play catch and release with people who have rap sheets a mile long. They're violent criminals. They are out terrorizing our communities.
Or executive mayors that don't support them. So the the combination that will destroy a city, a once great thriving city, is a radical mayor, if it's a strong mayor position, and a radical DA or prosecutor that won't prosecute cases. And if you look at the top 10, 15 cities that have spiked in murder around our nation, you're most likely gonna have that incredibly dangerous combo. And it is not rocket science on how to lead a state in this nation. If you pledge and work diligently to protect your people, their safety, and you protect their rights fiercely, which we have done here in Florida, while we were making decisions about the health care and safety and welfare of our folks during the pandemic, we always did so through a lens of protecting individual liberty.
Let's shift real quick to the pandemic. You all have really been a leader in terms, I know, I'm sorry, Rebecca.
It's all right.
Just win, okay?
Working on it.
Yeah, exactly. Really, you all have really been a leader in making sure that they don't have these forced mandates on the employees. I can't even tell you the number of employees that have come to me and said, I've been forced to get the jab or I would lose my job. And also getting rid of the mask mandates. What drove those decisions, and why do you believe that more states should follow?
It goes back to always making any decision with a lens of how do we do what we were meant to do when we were set up as the United States of America, protect the autonomy of states to govern the health, safety, and welfare of their people, and those state leaders have to respect individual rights and fight back when the federal government tries to encroach upon our autonomy to deal with those subject matters in our state. Because think about it. Right now, the way the United States was set up, if you don't like how California is using its police powers, you can move to Florida. In fact, we have more people moving to Florida than any other state in the nation right now. And that's because the way our government is set up, that's how it's meant to work. But if the federal government, which we gave very limited authority when we were set up, if that government starts overreaching and taking powers away from the states and impeding upon what they have the right to do, you have to have AGs and state leaders that will push back on that. Otherwise, where do people go?
Right.
Well, in January of 23, I would like to give you a run for your money in Florida and have people moving to Wisconsin. But an illustration in contrasts here is Tony Evers judged human beings, told some people they were essential, other people they were non-essential, and pitted people against each other in Wisconsin's economy. Then we saw health officials across the state in counties empowered to become tyrants. In Wisconsin, we actually had cops going out and shutting down church services. Today, there's a patchwork across our state where some children are still going to school in masks, can't play interscholastic sports. They are not allowed to go to school if they have been contact traced. We can't have a patchwork in education, not in Wisconsin, not anywhere. We need to unmask our children and let them learn.
Oh, that's right. Well, let me get some final thoughts. Ashley, I'll start with you. We'll work ourselves this way.
You know, it's so right. So keep in mind, you have to have a federal government that respects its limited authority. We do not have that at all right now. Joe Biden is trying to be creative and using all kinds of laws to overstep his authority and push his will down into the states. That's why I'm fighting right now in court to keep kids that are 2 years old from having to wear masks outside.
Yes.
Outside. This is the kind of litigation that we're having to deal with, but we will continue to do that because in our state, this is the reason more people are moving here. This is why we broke tourism records last year. This is why we have the lowest crime rate in 50 years. It is because we fiercely protect individual rights. We want to stand up for our good men and women in law enforcement, protect our people, and let them do their jobs, let them protect folks. And we want to make sure that in Florida, we still have the right to do that, and this federal government can't stop us. Governor DeSantis believes that firmly. I'm right there along with him, and we'll keep fighting for freedom here in Florida.
Well, I see what you're doing in Florida, and I'm calling my shot because we want those same freedoms in Wisconsin. Frankly, I think we want those same freedoms all across this country, and I think that strong moms can lead that revolution because we're frustrated by what we have seen. And Democrats have done the wrong things in this time for choosing, and it's time for we, the parents, to choose, and we choose individual
You have
liberties.
two pretty passionate mamas up here.
We
You can probably tell.
Yeah. So let's back the badge, and let's get back to work, let's get back to school, and give government back to the people.
Yes, yes. Well, I have great hope. These are fabulous, fabulous conservative leaders, and I'm honored to call them my friends, Rebecca Clayfish, Ashley Moody. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So good to see you.
All right, you're still with me. I mean, we don't even have to go to commercial break. This is so great. So let's get right to it. I've got Governor Scott Walker with the Young America's Foundation, one of our favorites, and Congressman Madison Cawthorn of the great state of North Carolina. Gentlemen, how are you? Why don't you join over right here?
Are you in the middle?
Right here.
Hey, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Well, I can confidently say I'm the only person here with the most comfortable chair beating these two, so.
Look, you're not wearing my heels, Madison. I don't want to hear it. Okay, well, let's get...
My shoes never get dirty, so it's great.
Well, it's so great to have you both here. I was just obviously with Rebecca, who we just love, and she's running for governor of Wisconsin. And I know you had that role. And so what do you...
So I've heard, right?
You were one of the best, definitely one of the best governors there. Demi, walk us through not only what you're seeing in Wisconsin, but just generally. You're traveling across the country.
Yeah.
You're meeting with so many young, dynamic people. Is this next generation going to save us?
Yes, we are training the next generation of freedom fighters, and we're excited about it. And you know, you heard on the earlier panels, not only with Rebecca, but with others, first off, the thing we learned in Virginia last year is don't piss off parents.
Yes.
Because one of the few good things out of the pandemic is parents could see what was happening in the classroom. But I think the same thing's true with young people. Young people on college campuses are saying, hey, not only have we been dealing with this liberal indoctrination, with these left-wing professors, with this woke atmosphere out there, but they're sick and tired of their campuses being closed, of not getting the education they were promised, of having vaccine mandates, and of the vast hypocrisy that they see not only on college campuses, but across the country. And we've been saying for years at YAF that campuses are the canary in the coal mine. You can see how woke they've gotten there and how much that's translated into K through 12 education, into culture, and even into communications. It's got to stop. Young people are ready to fight back.
You're one of our young people, one of our young leaders, and you haven't aged like Scott and I have. But can I ask you, Madison, what are you seeing as well? As you do also travel across the country, you meet with such a diverse group of patriots. What's their message? What are they asking you? What are they worried about?
Well, I'll tell you, I believe people in my generation, people, especially ones who lean conservative, one, I believe until really this last election cycle, they kind of felt like they were alone, that there were no real conservatives out there. But since we went through the pandemic, people have really started realizing, oh, there's a lot more of us than the mainstream media would have us believe. And the thing I have found from young patriots across this country is that they're tired of being categorized in the Republican Party as being the party of no, as being the party that just is against things but doesn't actually have any ideas of how to successfully fix things. And you're starting to see people in the conservative movement now coming out with policy objectives saying, hey, the ideology of this wokeism, the ideology of trying to sell America out to the highest bidder across the sea is no longer going to work. I mean, people in my generation, they want to be able to work and to prosper in peace. I mean, they want to be able to raise a family. They don't want to have to be an eternal renter because of insane student loan debt. Many people in my generation are starting to find that if you're getting a humanities degree now, it's completely pointless, which is sad. I mean, just 20 years ago at any of the Ivy Leagues, the humanities was the core of that.
Right.
It led to some great things, but then you started seeing this wokeism come out on campus, and I think, like many people in this room, we all just said, oh, that's so silly. Can you believe these college students? But where did that lead us? It led us to AOC. It led us to having the squad in Washington, D.C. And young conservatives across this country are now saying, we're not going to be categorized as being these radical leftists because we no longer believe in this ideology that killed 100 million people in the last century. We're now going to come out and go on offense instead of just playing defense.
So, Scott, social media has such a huge influence in this next generation. I mean, it pretty much defines them when you're talking about a selfie or going on TikTok, and a lot of it is mindless. So what is the concern there? And I guess how can conservatives utilize it in their favor, as we know there's a lot of canceling going on in the meantime?
Well, big tech is just like big business, big labor, big government. We're on the side, conservatives are on the side of the little guy, the hardworking men and women of our country, and certainly small business owners. But one of the encouraging signs is we've done all sorts of research. Again, at yf.org, you can see the things we're working on, but it's all sorts of research with young people. And what's really encouraging is you hear Twitter all the time in media, and yeah, we're on there, other groups are on there. You know what the #1 way Generation Z gets their information? YouTube. And why that's important, and granted there are disadvantages and challenges there as well, but we saw our YouTube subscribers during the pandemic more than double.
Interesting.
And it's content driven. So we have someone like Ben Shapiro, we just added a new speaker, Kellyanne Conway, we have all these, Matt's been on some of our things as well. We see these speakers, and where the YouTube content is so great is young people watch not just the lecture on campus, they watch the Q&A. They want to hear, as you were talking about, the crazy questions from that radical teaching assistant or others out there, because they want to hear, how do I respond to it in the classroom, with my friends, on social media? And the good news is they're gravitating towards content. So as conservatives, as you said, Congressman, we got to talk about big ideas. We got to be on the side of young people and entrepreneurs and people want to start up their own businesses. They're hungry for it, and they know, more than anything, young people believe in fairness. And when you point out that it's not fair, when we exposed a college professor at Iowa State University who actually said, if you're against abortion, against traditional, or against same-sex marriage, and if you're against BLM, the organization, you're out of my class, we exposed that. And thankfully, at least in Iowa, the university system said, no, that's not free speech. Young people get free speech, they get the woke culture, they don't want to be a part of it, they don't see it as fair. That's where conservatives have a real shot.
And Governor, just to add on top of that, the social media aspect is actually being weaponized against our country. You know, we all heard when TikTok came out from China, it's like, oh, we thought it was this information gathering apparatus they wanted to create, but it's actually much more diabolical than that. If you look at the algorithms, what they're encouraging young people in America to do to be able to go viral and to get a lot of views on their TikToks and these videos, it's to learn some silly dance or to do something that's completely mindless and meaningless. But if you look at the algorithms in China, what they're encouraging their young children to do, the things that make them go viral, is building something incredible through STEM or through engineering, or being able to go out and speak incredibly fluently and well, or having great patriotic and masculine values. And these are the things they encourage for their youth, yet they're trying to subvert our entire culture.
Yeah, it's like dumbing down of America is the whole thing. Madison, I do want to really quick, talking about canceling, obviously they're trying to cancel you from even...
Are they really?
Yeah.
Does the left not like
let's
me?
talk.
I had no idea.
Go tell our crew here what's going on and what you're doing.
Yes, indeed. So make no mistake, there's a gentleman named Mark Elias, a terrible human being. Yeah.
Okay, that's like a huge boo.
And
okay?
I'll tell you the reason why. He was really the quarterback of all the shenanigans that happened in 2020 in our election. And he participates in something that we've coined as lawfare. And it's using the judicial system against their political enemies. And so because of what happened on January 6th, you know, they started trying to say, and I just thought they were trying to get a catchy tagline for their headlines. They started throwing around seditionists and insurrectionists and these words from the mainstream media. Well, now we see that it was all a completely coordinated effort to set the standard to say, well, because he participated in an insurrection, the 14th Amendment bars him from being able to be in office. And make no mistake, I don't know why they chose me first. Perhaps it's because I tell Nancy Pelosi she's not God every single day. But you hear this group from Western North Carolina. They love it. It's great. But I'll tell you, if they are successful in being able to keep me off the ballot, it will set a precedent that anyone who had questions or some concerns about the 2020 election and what happened there, they maybe expressed it on Facebook or on Twitter, then they will be able to bar every single one of those people from ever being able to hold office in America and destroy the America First mission. And so I'm telling you, one, this is a spiritual battle, I genuinely believe. And so please be praying for this. Pray for the judges involved, the lawyers involved. But the American people need to be awake to what's going on. When these people say, oh, well, you're a threat to democracy and you need to go out and vote like democracy depends on it. Well, I want to say back to them, why don't you start governing like the country depends on it?
Right.
Why don't we actually start doing something for the American people instead of using our government and our institutions to attack hardworking, good-hearted Americans across this country? I think all of us in this room are sick and tired of it, and it's time we stand up and fight it.
And the left has a well-funded, coordinated effort to stop any effective Republican or conservative. That is their goal, and they're going to try to do it through election as well. Scott, I want to get your reaction to what we're seeing in Russia and Ukraine right now, obviously the Russian aggression, and why Americans need to be concerned about this.
Well, it ties in actually with just Congressman what you were talking about. Woke weakness leads to things like we're seeing in the White House and what we're seeing around the world. Ronald Reagan talked about peace through strength. When you're weak, you get in the war, not when you're strong. And this president, sadly, is leading us towards a scenario where the world might very well end up in war again. And it goes all the way back to what he did in Afghanistan and what a debacle that was. He's allowed not only tyrants there, but in Iran and elsewhere around the world. We don't get into war when we're strong. We get into war when we're weak. And that's a lesson we need to learn, and why history is so important. You know, this president, unfortunately, seems to be more like Neville Chamberlain than just Jimmy Carter, and that's something we should all be afraid of.
Madison, the Daily Beast came out with an article basically saying, like, don't blame Biden for Russia, Ukraine. Should we believe that?
My friends, I want our president to be loved by the American people. I genuinely do, whenever we elect our president. But what I really, truly want in a president is for the rest of the world to be terrified of them. We are the most powerful nation that has ever existed on this planet, and we need to be able to exert that. But we also need to realize that the days of endless wars and sending our sons and daughters to die across the sea for other nations, that those need to be gone. We need to be able to use economic sanctions to be able to stop. I mean, really, this all could have been stopped by being able to stop the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from being constructed.
Yes.
It would have been so simple. But my friends, think about this. Joe Biden, we've all heard of the shenanigans that happened with Burisma. We all everything that went on with Ukraine. I just don't understand when we import 595,000 barrels of oil from Russia every single year. Yet, if we were to have the Keystone Pipeline, we would create 850,000 barrels of oil. My friends, this president has been corrupted by the radicals across this country, by Putin, by Xi Jinping, and my friends, we're starting to see the consequences of that. You see why Xi Jinping and Putin both wanted Biden to be president, because now Taiwan is unfortunately getting an unprecedented preview of what's going to happen, and it's very sad.
You talked about Taiwan. The New York Times reported a story about Chinese intelligence, basically the Biden administration sharing information with the Chinese, sharing intelligence with the Chinese officials. Chinese officials handed that over to Moscow officials. Your reaction?
Well, in America, there should be no greater friend and no worse enemy. And unfortunately, we're seeing it reversed under this administration. And Peter Schweitzer is going to talk to our student lunch here at CPAC in just about an hour. His book, Red Handed, talks exactly about the problems you see, not with just Joe Biden, with his entire family. These are the facts that young people, when they come to our conferences, say, we never heard this. And I don't blame young people for being liberal. I blame the rest of us for not doing enough to get the word out early in life, not just in college, and tell them the truth. They're hungry for the truth.
Final thoughts as we've run out of time, Madison.
Well, you know, I genuinely believe that the world is a safer place when America is strong. When the greatest generation defeated evil in World War II, we had 70 years of no real power in the world trying to gain more territory until Joe Biden took over. Until for the last 6 decades, the Republican Party has been on defense, not taking ground every single day, but just capitulating to the left inch by inch by inch, to where our country is so weak that our enemies feel emboldened. This is why I've come out with a new contract with America that will reestablish America as the dominant force on the planet. If you guys want to look into that, you can go to newcontractwithamerica.org. This one's a little different than the others. And instead of trying to convince 218 members of Congress to sign on to it, I want to convince 30 or 60 million Americans to start getting involved, because it is time for the people to be in command of this country, not the people in Washington, D.C.
Last word.
Most important thing you can do for America right now is pray. Pray for our young people, pray for our military, pray for our leaders, even those we disagree with. Pray that God might open their eyes to doing what's right and just, to respect and protect the republic that we love.
You both are great. I mean, round of applause for Governor Scott Walker, Congressman Madison Cawthorn. And that's it. Our talk show is over. You've all been a great audience. Thank you all.
Good job.
because I wanted to add my voice to the world that needs more voices of courage, I think, that are willing to say, I do not apologize for what I stand for. Don't apologize. And that's why, and it was to become more involved. I'm now working on a campaign in Minnesota with someone running for governor, Kendall Qualls. I'm not supposed to do that, sorry.
Hey, it's just a fact.
It is a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact. I am a co-chair of his campaign. I hope you'll check him out online. And I just want people to know it's okay to be yourself and speak your values and live your values and not apologize.
So
I don't have any controversial values either. I'm just.
So if I think about pro sports and as a kid watching pro sports, it never would have been discordant to have values like you have and work in pro sports. At what point did this become a conflict or a tension where if on your own time you wanted to speak about what you cared about, it became a professional problem?
Well, I think the advent of social media, right? If I tweeted anything, you're in the quagmire. Now everyone's retweeting it, and by the way, reading into it, you know. I remember my producer once telling me 140 characters is not the best way to get your message out there.
Yeah.
And he was right. And I have since left Twitter, by the way. I'm not really on social media. I'm on LinkedIn. And
by the way, you're on social media right now,
hi,
like it or not.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm here voluntarily, and hopefully people will listen to the full. I got more than 140 characters to talk here. But it's a dangerous way to try to communicate with people. Because no matter what you say, you will be twisted and taken out of context. Guaranteed by people who want to. It's now, that's the sport now.
So let me tell you, you sound like my wife. Oftentimes at 1 a.m., she storms into wherever I'm sitting and says, give me the phone. Because, so many of us who think we should get a fair shot, right? The refs should call it straight. I didn't mean it when I said that. We start to defend ourselves. You're right about the apology. If the apology was meant to say, hey, look, I just want you to know I didn't mean to offend you, but that's not what the apology is. The apology is, see, I told you, you have privilege.
Yep.
You don't have a voice here. Shut up. That's what's going on.
Well, first of all, let's talk about something he just said. I didn't mean to offend you. People can choose to be offended by whatever they want.
Obviously.
Being offended, I believe this fervently. Being offended is a choice that you make. You read something, you see something, I say something, and you go, oh, I'm so offended. Well, why? It's just, if you disagree with me, disagree with me. But if you decide you're going to be pained by it or aggrieved by it, that's you making that choice. You can also, the other choice is, I disagree, I'm walking on, I'm moving on. So the way I started to look at Twitter was, if someone tweeted something really awful about me, I said, it's a Russian bot, I'm gonna ignore it, and just laugh. It's your choice. It really is. I'm not saying it's easy.
No.
It's not easy,
no.
But it is your choice. You get to choose how you respond to everything in the world. And when I said Russian bot, by the way, I hate to, I know we're trying to have fun up here, but God bless the people fighting for themselves in the Ukraine right now.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of energy and optimism at CPAC, but I think there's also underlying that is a real concern.
Yeah.
Elections have consequences. Elections with lots of fraudulent ballots have even more consequences. And when we thought about this year's CPAC, we know the politics are going our way. We get that. But underlying that is some really, really hurtful things. And part of that is this cancel culture, which I believe the Democratic Party and the left is fueling for whatever reason. And even people like Bill Maher saying, hey, enough is enough. You were the one who helped us invite Ennis Freedom to come to CPAC. Within 72 hours, he lost his NBA contract. How does that make you feel?
Well, I'm angry. So for people who don't know, Enes Kanter Freedom, his name was Enes Kanter. He's a Turkish player. Became an American citizen because he desired freedom, which is everyone should desire. Changed his name legally to Enes Kanter Freedom, which is so beautiful. And He played for the Celtics, they traded him, and he got cut by the Houston Rockets, to whom he was traded. I'm fairly certain that was a calculated move. How do we get rid of Ennis without it making seem like we're getting rid of Ennis? Well, we'll trade him and we'll let them do something. I've been in touch with Ennis. He's hanging in there. He would like to get another job in the NBA. He's a basketball player.
Could we send a message to Ennis Freedom about what we think about him in this room? What do you all think? That's right.
I mean, he has been a portrait of courage, right? The guy is out there talking about, I mean, he would wear shoes during warm-ups of an NBA game that said, you know, things about China and slavery and the Uyghurs, and the NBA didn't like it. And they begged him to take those shoes off. Somebody did. He never did. I just think that kind of courage, we need more of it. And I hope collectively we find it within each other. In other words, that's sort of what I want to tell people. I had the courage, whatever. This is not a pat on the back, believe me. I'm going to miss Sunday Night Football. But I chose to leave my job so that I could help make a difference somewhere. That's all I want to do, is help make a difference. I want to help things get better. I want us to heal. Okay, I love this country. My dad was a second-generation Spaniard, came in. My mom was dirt poor, Irish and German. Hi, Mom, I hope you're watching, and it's okay that I said you were dirt poor, because it's true. And they got married. My mom basically got disowned by her family for marrying a Spaniard. They called them names, you know? And they lived the American dream. They made it happen. And knowing my relatives and knowing where I come from, I know that's possible. And I know, and I'm really tired of people telling other people, oh, it's only possible for some. That's just not true. It's not true. I believe it's available to everyone. I do believe every state is responsible for making their school systems better, you know, and giving families choice about where they get to educate their kids. And that would help. That would be a great investment in the future of this country. And anyway, that's why I'm at CPAC.
KT McFarland has said many times, and I copy her, it's a great statement, that America is the only country on the face of the globe that literally teaches her children to hate her own country. You have this immigrant experience you just talked about. Within the political conversation we're having, people like you aren't supposed to have these values. Speak at a CPAC. You're supposed to think that we're the haters. We're the intolerant people. Is it true that we've woken up and we're not going to put up with this anymore?
I think we're seeing a sea change. Tell me if you agree, because I've had so many phone calls lately from people who said, oh my gosh, you're doing it, I want to do this. I want to speak out. I want to, and so my message is to people, please be courageous. Yeah. Speak out. I believe that the majority of the country believes in the goodness of us, in the goodness of Americans, the American people. But they've been told to shut up, and don't shut up. And demonstrate the goodness in all that you do, whether it's smiling at the grocery clerk, whether it's thanking your, I don't know, the guy that just filled your tank, if you still do, you know, do they still serve, or is it all self-serve?
No,
I've never had,
the only place it's not self-serve is when the government makes them hire those people to fill up your tank, so there you go. New Jersey. Come on, guys. Come on, Jersey, you gotta do better, come on. You're so close. You're so close. The truck driver, good. That's a good first step.
Yeah, wave at truck drivers. I mean, I don't care who they are, and you know what? Someone's gonna find a way to twist what I just said. They're gonna go, oh, she said to smile at the grocery clerk as though they're less than her. No, God, stop.
Don't apologize.
Don't apologize, because once you apologize, you'll just keep retreating to the back and going, I'm sorry. Don't do it. What I mean is do good at every turn in your life. Do good for your family. Do good for your friends. Do good for the people you run into. Smile at people around you. Say hello, good morning. Just do good and be brave and find that courage. We all have it, but we've got to use it. And not apologize for it.
So one thing I've noticed, by the way, it's great to be in Florida, right? We all know that. One of the greatest reasons why it's good to be in Florida is because my family lives here, so thank you all for being here. And they're Spaniards too, so they're kind of like you a lot.
There we go.
But what I notice is when I go to a red state, I find joy, I find happy people, I hear please and thank you, no one's hectoring you over masks or this or that. And in blue state, they're down. It's a downer to be in these places. I mean, you know, first of all, it's dangerous, but second of all, like, these people are crabby.
When you're angry all the time, you tend to be crabby. I mean, and again, it's like that choice of how you respond to every situation you're faced with in life. You also get to choose to be cheerful or happy over choosing to be angry all the time. Now look, life deals all of us, a fair load of crap. Every so often, we all get it, because life isn't fair, and it never will be. It is not perfectly fair. And you got to accept that. I mean, if life were fair, children wouldn't die of cancer, right?
That's right.
If life were fair, we'd all look like Cindy Crawford. I mean, are some of you too young to know who Cindy? Good God, that's. Who else should I say? Who's younger? Kim Kardashian? I don't know. Anyway, if life were fair, everything would be equal, but it's not. So here you accept that. You say, I know I'm not going to have everything I want, but I'm going to pursue what's the most important to me. And given my set of circumstances, what do I want to do? I've got the freedom to do that. So accepting that, you bring justice where it needs to come, right? You bring fairness to where you can control it, but you can't always control it. And I think that example of kids having cancer, if you think that life's supposed to be fair, think about a kid with cancer. That just ain't fair. And so what we do is we respond accordingly. We respond the best way we know how. I know we're running out of time.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one final question. It seems like in the, not that long ago, the liberals were the tolerant ones that said, hey, let every book be out there on the shelf, let everyone say what they want to say. And now it seems like the people of CPAC and conservatives are the ones that say, hey, we'll welcome people on our stage. We might have some disagreements, so we want to hear what they have to say. But the liberals have turned leftist, and the conservatives have this liberal open mindset. What the heck is going on?
I don't know, but I'd rather be on the side of the liberal open mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep an open mind. Listen, one thing I think I really want to say before I leave, just because they disagree with you doesn't mean you should hate them. Don't be a hater. Smile, accept, it's the golden rule.
I was just going to say.
Treat others the way you would want to be treated.
Right.
We all want to be accepted for our beliefs. Now, I know, again, none of this is easy, and I get that. But here in America, we have a pretty good life. We have an opportunity to do hard things. So in other words, I can go get a coffee without grinding my own beans, right? So that's ease, that's convenience. So now I'm going to channel my energy towards the hard stuff. And that means, because we don't have to necessarily chop our own wood anymore, all that. I hope we're not heading back there, but the way things are going, I mean, we're going to have, I don't know.
That's the way we're going to have to heat our houses pretty soon. Yeah.
Oh, good. You know. You got to work at it, folks. You got to work at being accepting. You got to work at getting your spinal column a little stronger and saying, you disagree with me, have a great day.
That's right.
You got to work at it. Let's not hate back. Let's be the group that says free speech, absolutely 1,000% free speech. I'm not going to try to cancel you.
Yeah.
You can try to cancel me.
But you're not
I'm not going to cancel you, and you're not going to succeed.
Michelle Tafoya, thank you for being at
you.
CPAC.
Thank you.
such an invaluable experience. Coming to CPAC is like coming home to family every single time you come here. You can go to some events, it is not warm and fuzzy. I come here, I feel like I'm home and with family. And because of CPAC, I have met so many people who will help me save America and save the people in my district. I have a healthcare expert now, a veterans expert, national security issue experts, and so many investors that can come into my district to help bring jobs, revitalize my communities. And I would never have been able to do that without CPAC. So being at CPAC is an incredible experience.
I not be excited for Trump, you know, he's coming back in 2024, gonna put America first. What's not to love?
It's just fun to have conservatives from all over the country coming together, share best practices, see who the future leaders are, hear what current leaders are saying, what's going on in our country. So it's just a great place to come and get rejuvenated and get fired up about the conservative movement and, you know, where our country is heading.
Everything. I can't wait to hear the speakers. I'm looking super forward to hearing Ted Cruz and Candace Owens and of course President Trump. I'm really excited.
What gets me excited about CPAC is the ability to network and to meet individuals and get my message and word out there. Vote early, vote Eller.
Anybody ready?
Be a complete stop put to immigration legal and illegal. You know, the elites, they're flooding our workforce with low-skilled labor, and they're really transforming our country into something totally different than what our ancestors experienced. So that is the change I would most like to see in this country.
Gone too far to the left. I think the fact that you've got Democrats and conservatives coming here from all across the country that are interested in an alternative to the kind of liberal progressive policies that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are pushing. So I think there's a lot of optimism out there, and the Republican Party, and particularly the conservative movement, is offering an alternative that is looking very appealing to Americans.
Candace Owens, she's my favorite. Lauren Boebert, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, and pretty much everyone who's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Florida, Representative Byron Donalds.
CPAC, we got some work to do in about 8 to 9 months. You know, I want to tell you a little bit about what's happening in our country today. You already know, but let's take a quick recap. You know, back in 2020, when we were telling the world that the radical Democrats believed in socialism, the media said we were lying. They thought it was a joke. They thought it was a game. The Democrats, I mean, look, they did what they always do. They said that we're gaslighting the American people. They said that we're using dog whistles. They love using that phrase. But look what they actually did when they took over. The American Rescue Plan has unleashed an inflation on our shores unlike we haven't seen in a generation in America. They tried to bring in this bill called Build Back Better, which sounds much more like socialist propaganda. And they tried to tell the American people that spending more money was going to fix our issues. That's exactly right. And the only thing that saved us from Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders' radicalism are 2 Democrat senators who actually remember they represent red states. They want to indoctrinate our kids. It's more than gender identity. It's more than CRT. They are indoctrinating our children to make them think that socialism is somehow equivalent to capitalism. They want to do crazy things like spy on your bank accounts. You remember that little one? They try to be cute. say that, oh, if you spend over $10,000, they want the IRS to see everything that you change, everything that you spend on, who you transact with in order to raise more taxes. They still want to create this Green New Deal, this thing which is pure insanity, which will only deindustrialize the United States. It will empower our allies like we're seeing today. But they're not giving up on these ideas. They want to do more. They killed the Keystone Pipeline. They've opened up our borders. They want to spend massively. I serve on a committee with Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, you've heard of her. Okay. And she literally believes that we can print whatever we want. It doesn't matter how much we borrow. It doesn't matter how much we spend. But she can believe all that while she drives her nice little Tesla and lives in one of the most expensive apartments in Washington, D.C. You see, the left loves to deride capitalism, but they actually love capitalism. They love what it creates for them. But they want you, and they want me, and they want every hardworking American to bend the knee. But America has woken up, and we have realized that we're not going down a socialist road, and we're going to fight them this November. They want to pack the Supreme Court. Why? Not because they're concerned that, John Roberts or some other Republican justice might give them a win here or there. Yeah, John, I'm talking to you. They want to pack the court so that there's never a chance for freedom-loving Americans to actually have a win at the highest court in the land. They don't want a Supreme Court that will interpret the Constitution. They want a Supreme Court that will enshrine socialism in these United States. They want to fix the elections to make the rest of America like California. Even though so many of them come to the great state to vacation and take a day at the beach and sip Moscow Mules. That's actually a pretty good drink, though. I mean, let's be honest. Their design is simple. Their design is to make sure that the elites in our country and the useful idiots in Washington, D.C. are the ones who control our economy. And their target are the young. I went in a public school classroom years ago and I picked up their economics textbook. And when the section on microeconomics, they had a side-by-side comparison between free market capital and socialism and fascist-run economies. And the very textbook that sits in an American classroom made it seem as if both sides had a legitimate argument. This is how far they've gone. But if you examine world history, there is no equivalent argument. You see, free market capitalism is the very thing that has allowed all of us to grow, to thrive, and to succeed. You having the ability to keep your own money and to actually live up to the fruits of your God-given talent and to execute that in a marketplace of ideas and products without government telling you what to buy has unleashed more prosperity than in any other place on the globe. Free market capitalism, money. Folks, I like money. Can we be honest about this? I like money. I want to make it. I took a job, I don't really make that much of it. But I did this job because I want you to make it. This economy, this society has allowed a kid from Brooklyn, New York, who grew up poor, to actually have a choice to serve in the House of Representatives or be out in the world and make lots of money. But we gotta fight for it, folks. CPAC, we gotta fight for it. There is no reason we should be quiet and let Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren tell us how economies should be run. I mean, look at how stupid they are. These are the same people who said that it was a bright idea to end energy production in these United States and to buy oil from the Russians and the Iranians. People who would rather see us bend the knee to them, not just in terms of politics, but who would rather subjugate America to second or third tier status. And these bright bulbs of the dim left actually think that's a smart economic plan. The battle for our future, the battle for our country, the battle for our economy is in every public school, every private school, every charter school, and every homeschool across America. We can win this battle. We can win this battle one very simple way. One, folks, we got to engage in the culture. Young people have built a life for themselves. Well, look, they didn't build it for themselves. Let's be honest. We built it for them, okay? I got kids. I built a life for them. And in their life, oh, thank you. And in their life, they can customize everything. We were waking up in a hotel this morning. My 10-year-old son was like, Mom, I need something to watch. And so she's like, go use the remote. And he looks at the remote and he's like, there's too many buttons. What are all these buttons for? The truth is, our young people have customized their entire lives. They watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it. Everything is on demand. If they want food, they either Grubhub or Uber Eats or DoorDash. They don't even know what the inside of a supermarket looks like. They stuff shipped to their house and they eat whatever they want at any given point in time. They have at their fingertips the very manifestation of what a free market economy and a free society allows. They can literally choose whatever they want. And so the political question of our time for all young Americans is, do you want to still be able to choose whatever you want, whenever you want it, at a moment's notice, and be able to get it? Or do you want to listen to Joe Biden? You see, CPAC, I believe we can win that argument. I believe that conservatives can win that debate every single day. And in a few months, when we finally send Nancy Pelosi home packing, we are going to show America and we are going to show the world that a society based on religious freedom, a society based on economic freedom, a society based on political freedom is the only society that will work not just in America, but around the globe. And we can get it done and keep it here in these United States. God bless you, CPAC. God bless America.
Take on the world. We're gonna take on the world.
Congratulations, AARP. Over $1 billion. Wow. That's what AARP was paid in corporate royalties in a single year, totaling over $9 billion through the last decade. Most of it derived from United Health, one of the nation's largest health insurance corporations. So wait, AARP earned billions partnering with big insurers while also lobbying Congress on changes to Medicare? AARP advocates for who exactly these days? Paid for by American Commitment.
BlackRock, the biggest American money manager. Where are they investing your money? China, pouring in billions, propping up Chinese communist leaders, putting money into surveillance companies used by the Chinese military. Even left-wing billionaire George Soros knows
former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
Good morning. It's great to be with you all again. And when I say again, I was here almost exactly a year ago with you. What a 14 months it has been. What a 12 months it has been. 14 months of this administration. By the way, I was out talking to you some this morning. The most common question was, like, how'd you lose all that weight? It's hard work, and pray that I can keep it off, would you all? I would appreciate that. I got asked this morning, too, do you miss the pressure? Aren't you glad you're out of the fire? I miss every single minute of it. I wish that we were back there leading America. Look, let's go through the list of just these past 14 months. What's changed? When I talked to you last year, I spoke about all the things that President Trump and I had done here and abroad for America to protect each and every one of you. In the last 14 months, we've seen governors that don't wear masks but requiring 3-year-olds to do so. We've seen a man break swimming records in girls' swimming races. We've seen a Russian dictator now terrorize the Ukrainian people because America didn't demonstrate the resolve that we did for the 4 years prior. In the last 12 months, we've seen that now it's okay to steal something as long as it's worth less than $1,000. A minor incursion, if you will, into Walgreens. We've seen the number of border crossers on our southern border go up by 4 times, something that we would never have permitted to happen. And we've seen a debacle in Afghanistan that had the result of 13 Americans not come home to their families. I want to take just 1 minute. I know I was a soldier. Many of you probably served in Afghanistan. Many of you would have friends and family. I want to take just a minute to tell every one of you, I know watching what happened in Afghanistan was hard, and it was difficult, and it was depressing. And some of you have questioned whether your service was just wasted. As a former Secretary of State, I want you to know that the work that you did in Afghanistan saved American lives. I saw it firsthand, that your work was noble and important. And this Secretary of State, wants you to know that I love you. I thank you for your service. God bless you. You saved American lives. You know, the other day, President Biden said he was in one of his moments. He was kind of wandering around, and he said, well, they're against all these things that I'm doing. What are Republicans for? So let's go through the list. First, we're making sure he doesn't own a single branch of government just as quickly as we possibly can. Second, you saw this with President Trump. We were disruptors. We were prepared to break glass when what the establishment was doing made no sense. We were preparing to break it. Republicans are prepared to do the right thing to protect the American way of life everywhere and always. You should know that we defended that border, protecting American sovereignty. We built the wall. We changed the course of history by telling folks, if you want to come to America, this greatest nation in the history of civilization sounds great. File your asylum claim and then go back and wait. When we did that, we changed and we provided security for the United States of America. We protected every human life. I couldn't be more proud of the fact that when I came in to be Secretary of State, your dollars, your money, your hard-earned money that was being paid in American taxes was going to foreign countries and being used to promote abortion around the world. And in an instant, we stopped it and saved countless lives. I remember too, we were the barbarians, we were the rubes, we didn't know what we were doing. We look pretty competent now. I say that not in joy, but in sorrow, because America demands good leadership, and the world is depending upon it. When the Iranians were threatening our friends in Israel, and when a general in Iran was trying to further his plan to take more American lives, we did the right thing. We restored deterrence. We did not send 50,000 soldiers across the world. We took a strike that changed history. We struck Qasem Soleimani so he would never kill another American. We made clear to our friends everywhere that we were going to be friends with our friends, and we moved the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, recognizing that place. And when I traveled on Good Friday of 2018 on a mission that the president had given me to meet with Chairman Kim, to tell that ruthless leader who had sent a young American home from detention only to die, I went to see Chairman Kim to tell him that we were prepared to do the right thing. But Chairman Kim must do the right thing. He must release American hostages, and we got all 3 of the American hostages home. And we did not take 1 penny of yours and give it to a bad guy to get them back. We simply presented American power. We convinced Chairman Kim not to do any nuclear testing, not to conduct long-range missile testing. And as I stare at the world today and our security right here at home, the things that matter to us in our everyday life, the capacity to take care of our families, and the ability to know that we can safely walk our streets without the threat of bad guys from around the world presenting risk to us, the risk of terror, the risk of bad folks and drugs coming across our southern border, the threat of the invasion of our nation from the Chinese Communist Party. America was in a better place. And today we should continue the fight. We should continue the fight to make sure that that is so in the future. I want to talk about the things that matter to Americans right here at home. We see on our TV the bombs, the missiles, the Soviet tanks, the Russian tanks moving across Ukraine. My first assignment when I was a young lieutenant was I was in a border unit patrolling what was then the East German border. It was the last time we had Americans in Europe standing face to face with the Russians. How did we prevail? It was peace through strength. It was Reagan's model. It was the model that we used for 4 years in the Trump administration. We put America first, and we told people around the world, you cannot tread on us. You should know that I worked for 4 years on things across the world. I was trying my best to make sure that America was always at the forefront of my mind when I worked with our adversaries and helped our friends. I could see that the greatest threat from abroad was the Chinese Communist Party. We worked on it abroad. We tried to make sure that the jobs that they had stolen in the United States would no longer be stolen, and that the hard work that Americans did here would be rewarded with a set of trade deals that actually made sense in the United States of America. I'm incredibly proud of what we were able to accomplish. And I wish I could tell you that the China problem is just all over there. It was something we could turn away from. It's what, frankly, the bipartisan establishment, Democrat and Republican alike, had believed for decades. We sell them a little bit more and life will be good. I wish it were so. But what happens in Beijing does not stay in Beijing. It's why I made the decision to close the Chinese consulate in Houston, Texas. You should know that that did not make me any friends at the United States Department of State. You should also know that I didn't really give a rip. We did it because we made the decision because the way they were operating one of the largest spy rings inside the United States of America out of that very consulate. They were stealing the secrets from the University of Texas medical system and our energy companies, and it was intolerable, and we just said, no, we're not going to take it anymore. Stop it. And we shut it down. Common sense applied to protecting each and every one of you. Today, they're inside our colleges and universities. They're working on local governments, our mayors and our governors. You should demand that your mayor, your county commissioner, your school board member, your governor doesn't kowtow, does not bend a knee to the Chinese Communist Party. And your state pension systems. Your state pension systems, any of you are teachers or have worked for government, pay money into state pension systems, you should make sure that your state pension system isn't underwriting the very weapons that the Chinese Communist Party may one day use to attack our great nation. It's unacceptable, it's irrevocably evil, and we can do better. You know, we just had a president do nothing to prevent our young best athletes in the world from traveling to Beijing, and all we did was tell them, take a burner phone like a drug dealer, right? Be very quiet. Don't use your rights as an American to say the things you care about, because if you do, those bad guys where you're going to compete, well, they just may not let you come home. We could have done more. We could have prevented this from being there. We could have made sure our athletes could do their best and compete across the world without the jackbooted thug Xi Jinping staring them down, taking their DNA, and forever changing the course of history. These are the things we're for. These are the things Republican more. We know our founding. We know that this is a nation with a deep Judeo-Christian footing, mooring. We must defend it at every turn. I've done this ever since I was a young cadet. I was even thinner then. My friends joke that I boxed at 172. I was 172 pounds. I am not scaring 172 today. We need to be prepared to stay in that fight. We need to defend these things. There's no room on the things that matter most that parents get to direct their kids' education, that our schools should be open, our churches should be open. These are things we know in our heart matter to the next generation. We should make sure in those schools and in our churches, we are teaching the greatness of the United States of America. It is an imperative. I battled adversaries all across the world. I met with the Taliban. I met with Chairman Kim and Xi Jinping. There is no threat greater to the United States than that which emanates inside our republic, emanates inside our school system. If we do not teach our children, the next generation, that we are not a racist nation, then surely the bad guys, if we do not teach them that we are not a racist nation, then surely the bad guys will come to be right about an America in decline. It is not true. We will prevent it from being so. I want to close with this. I have spent these last 14 months watching what's going on in Washington with great trepidation, but doing what I need each and every one of you to do, and what my wife and I are committed to doing. We're going to go stay in this fight. I have been so heartened. I've traveled from Tennessee to California, yes, even California. I've traveled to Ohio. I was in Iowa last night. I was back here in Florida earlier this weekend past. Traveled all across the country helping good candidates who have decided to give of themselves back to their community. I've watched people who didn't even know where their school board meetings were being held saying, I'm going to run for school board. I've watched people sacrifice so much of their own to go fight for what matters in city council races, in county commission races, and for district attorneys. Don't we know now how much that matters? Let's be in the fight. Let's never give an inch. Let's never compromise. Let's stand on the very things that allowed you to have all the opportunity you have had in the world, that brought you here to CPAC, to stand on this conservative platform and clearly speak to America and say, humbly, but boldly, this is the greatest nation in civilization, and it is not going to change on my watch. Thank you. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless this great nation. Thank you all so much.
world.